Welcome back to Potty Break, the vlog for adoptive and foster parents. And today we're continuing the second of 3 parts of our conversation of helping kids who struggle with anxiety during the holidays. The second thing that tends to help kids reduce anxiety is breathing. Now there's 2 kinds of breathing that we want kids to be able to practice. The first is deep breathing. When we cause kids to breathe deep, which means sucking in the air, to do a diaphragm type of breathing where we're pulling the diaphragm down and we're filling up the stomach as much as we can with air. What that does is 2 things. First of all, it expands the cavity here and it puts some pressure on the vagus nerve that runs down the spine. And that nerve is contracted to a lot of the body, and so that when I expand and put some pressure on that, it's like giving a little massage, and it kind of relaxes my whole body. And remember, anxiety tends to be fairly physiological, and if I can relieve that tension, then we feel much better. The other thing that a deep breath does is a lot of the serotonin in our system is made down inside of our stomach lining and in our intestines, and so when we put a lot of pressure down there, we can squeeze that lining and squeeze some of that serotonin out, and in about 30 seconds it hits the brain and it feels pretty good. One of the good tools that I've found that's going to help kids to be able to breathe deeply effectively is this little program called Sesame Street Breathe. And it's available on all the Android and iOS devices, on the iPads and iPhones. And it's a little game where they can sit there, and it's got a little monster having a little problem. This is one part of it where they breathe, and we breathe with the kids and with the monster, and we take a deep breath together 3 times before we move on to the next thing. So it's kind of a fun little app that you can pull out and the kids will want to use to help them to breathe a little bit. The second type of breathing is more of a mindfulness type of breathing, where we're asking kids to stop focusing on the things that are bothering them and just focusing on the breathing. It's a mental discipline, much like lifting weights and that kind of stuff. It builds muscles. The act of having your mind wander and bringing it back to focusing on something, in this case breathing, helps their mind to develop. And so this is something that we're going to use longer term with kids. If you can use it every day, that's great. But this is a kind of a tool that, if they're already in the habit, might help them during the holiday seasons when they say, okay, I think it's time to sit down and do some breathing and let's just think about our breaths. And one of the greatest tools I've ever seen to help kids to breathe, because it's kind of hard to get them to sit down and do it otherwise, is using a game, an app called Heart Math, and it's for the iOS devices and it's also for your computer. And I put a little device on your ear and it monitors your heart rate variability, and you plug it into the computer and they play a video game while it teaches them to breathe. And they love it because at the end of the game they get a reward, and you say, hey, if you get if you get 100 coins in this game, then you can pick an extra treat out of the prize box today, or you can get an extra cookie at dinner time. And so you give them kind of a reward to kind of want to get through that breathing exercise. The third, and one of the most important tools we have in our arsenal as parents of adoptive and foster kids, is heavy play. Getting these kids out and running around and getting tired and breathing heavy is a very helpful therapeutic tool, especially when they're anxious. That heavy play releases endorphins. It relaxes their muscles, and it gets them focused on something other than what they're anxious about. This is especially true if it's heavy play with an adult, because as adults, kids sometimes get a little overworked up, when they're outside playing heavy, and they freak out a bit more. But if we play with them, we can help to kind of regulate that heightened intensity of play and keep everything calm. The kids tend to borrow our brain functioning when they don't have it to use for themselves. We've got one more helpful tip in helping our kids deal with anxiety, and I think this one is going to surprise you. So you're going to want to come back for our next episode where we conclude our conversation about anxiety. Until then, don't forget to flush and wash your hands.